Welcome, confidential listeners, to another entry from our private archives. This is a space for the unspoken, for the deep, dramatic secrets that carry a heavy emotional weight. Tonight's story comes from Lana, a woman who learned that some ghosts don't haunt houses, they haunt your phone at 2 a.m. It is a diary of stolen moments and a collision of lies, titled Stolen Time, the Deadly Price of a Second Chance. So, close the door, turn down the lights, and listen closely, because the audience for this truth is only you. London in November is a city of shadows, a place where the gray mist clings to the brickwork like a secret. I was finally learning to breathe again. It had been 18 months since Viktor walked out on me. 18 months of scrubbing his scent from my sheets and his memory from my skin until my hands were raw. He had traded me for Lana, leaving me to rebuild my life from the debris of a broken promise. I was doing well, or so I told my reflection every morning, until the screen of my phone lit up in the dark, cutting through the silence of my Shoreditch flat. "Lana, are you there? I had a terrible dream about you last night. I woke up shaking, feeling like you were in danger. I just had to know you were okay." The oldest trick in the book, the nightmare hook. It's designed to make you feel cared for, to drag you back into an orbit you barely escaped. I should have deleted it. I should have let him rot in his own bad dreams. But my heart, that traitorous organ, skipped a beat at the sound of his recorded voice. I replied. I let the ghost back in, unaware that the danger he dreamed about was him. We met a week later at a small, dimly lit pub near Soho, one of those places where the floor is sticky with spilled gin and the music is loud enough to drown out a confession. When I saw him, the 18 months of healing evaporated like mist on a windshield. Viktor looked exactly the same shark jawline, the same intense predatory gaze that made me feel like the only woman in a city of 8 million. He didn't mention Elena. He spoke only of us, of the stolen time we had lost, and how he had spent every night in a cold bed regretting the day he let me go. He told me Elena was a mistake that had ended months ago. We danced, his hand firm on the small of my back, and for a moment the clocks in London stopped. "I'm not letting you go this time, Lana. I've lived a year in the dark. Let me back into your light." I let him kiss me. It tasted of gin and lies, but I was too hungry for affection to care. For 3 months, we lived in a bubble of secret hotel rooms and late-night walks along the Thames, hiding from the world as if we were the ones who were dead. Then, the silence began. It didn't happen all at once. It felt like a slow withdrawal of oxygen. 1 day of no texts, 2 days of call to voicemail. By the 3rd day, Viktor had simply vanished into the sprawling loneliness of London. His own was a digital ghost, mocking my frantic calls with its mechanical greeting. I paced the length of my flat until I knew every crack in the floorboards. I looked at Viktor's last seen on WhatsApp, Sunday, 4:17 p.m. That was the exact moment the world stopped turning. My thoughts were a storm of paranoia. Was he doing it again? Had he grown bored of the secret? I walked the rainy streets of Shoreditch, my reflection in the wet pavement showing a woman on the verge of unraveling. Every passing double-decker bus, every distant siren felt like a judgment on my stupidity. I told myself it was just a dead battery, but deep down, a cold, oily fear began to crawl up my spine, whispering that this wasn't just another disappearance, It was an ending. By the fourth day, the silence started to scream. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. The what-ifs were a cage I couldn't escape. I needed a name, a place, a sign. I began digging through the digital graveyard of my past, searching for the one person who could bridge the gap between my nightmare and the truth. His sister, Mila. We hadn't spoken since the first breakup, and the shame of admitting I was back with Viktor felt like swallowing glass. But the desperation was stronger than my pride. I pressed dial, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The phone rang. Once, twice, and when she finally answered, her voice wasn't filled with the warmth of an old friend. It was heavy, stripped of all color. "Lana? I didn't know you were still in the picture. I suppose you have a right to know, given everything." My grip on the phone was so tight my knuckles turned white. I knew then that the news wouldn't be about a broken charger. Mila's voice was strained, muffled by a background noise that made my blood run cold. The rhythmic, sterile beep of hospital machinery and the distant call for a doctor over an intercom. "Mila, what's happened? Why isn't he answering? Is he okay?" "Lana, Viktor was in an accident, a head-on collision on the M4 motorway coming back from the countryside on Sunday night. He's in St. Thomas's, in the ICU. It's bad, Lana. He has internal bleeding, a broken leg. He hasn't woken up." The air left my lungs. The words hit me like a physical blow. The reality of a car crash far more terrifying than any theory of abandonment. He hadn't left me. He was broken, fighting for his life in a bed of white sheets. I was already grabbing my coat, ready to run across London to be the loyal woman by his side, until Mila spoke again, her voice cracking with a detail she hadn't meant to share. Mila hesitated, and in that split second of silence, I heard the sound of my life fracturing into a million pieces. "It's a miracle Elena is already out of danger. She only had minor injuries, some cuts from the glass, but she's refusing to leave the waiting room. She's been there for 60 hours. The name, Elena, hit me harder than the impact on the M4 could have. "Elena? Mila, why was she in the car? Viktor told me he swore they broke up a year ago. He said he was single, that he lived alone." The silence on the other end was the sound of a judge delivering a final sentence. I realized then that my stolen time with Viktor wasn't stolen from the past. It was stolen from another woman's present. I stood in my hallway, the coat half on, feeling like a fool in a costume. "Lana, what are you talking about? They never broke up. Viktor and Elena have been married for 14 months. They were in the Cotswolds celebrating their first anniversary when the tire blew. He hasn't been single a day in his life since you." Married. 14 months. The timeline burned through my brain like acid. The man I had been sleeping with for 90 days, the man who whispered about our future while we watched the sunset over the Thames, was a husband celebrating a milestone while I waited for him in a cold bed in Shoreditch. Every nightmare he told me about, every mistake with Elena, it was all a curated script. He hadn't been alone in his bad dreams. He was living a double life in the same city, and I was just the unfortunate collateral damage of his anniversary getaway. I went to the hospital anyway. I had to see it. I took a cab to St. Thomas's, standing in the shadows of the fluorescent-lit hallway, smelling the antiseptic and the scent of dying hopes. From a distance, I saw her through the glass of the waiting room. Elena. She was beautiful, but it was a tired beauty, draped in a thick wool coat that probably cost more than my rent. She was holding a gold wedding band in her hand, twisting it nervously, her eyes red from crying. She was the rightful mourner. She was the one the nurses updated with a gentle touch on the shoulder. She was the one the world saw as the victim. I was the secret, the mistake, the other woman who had been fooled twice by the same man. I realized that if I walked into that room, I wouldn't be a comfort, I would be a catastrophe. I would be the explosion that finished what the car crash started. I turned around and walked out into the London rain, an invisible ghost in a city that didn't care. Weeks passed. Viktor woke up. I know because I stalked the hospital updates like a criminal, refreshing the news and checking his social media through a fake account. He moved from the ICU to a private room, then to a rehabilitation center in the country. He never called. He never messaged. I think Mila told him I had called that day. I think he realized that the collision on the M4 hadn't just totaled his car, it had totaled his web of lies. And in the end, he did what cowards do. He chose the path of least resistance. He chose the wife who didn't know he was a monster over the mistress who knew exactly what he was. I watched my phone every night for months, waiting for an apology, a justification, even a final beautiful lie. But the screen stayed dark. He didn't have the courage to face the wreckage he had made of me. He stayed in his perfect marriage, healing his broken bones, while mine remained shattered in the Shoreditch dark. It's been a year now. I hear through the grapevine that he walks with a slight limp, a permanent souvenir of that Sunday in the Cotswolds. But I walk with a limp in my soul. I still live in London. I still hear the sirens and feel the damp chill of the fog. But I don't answer private numbers anymore. I don't believe in dreams that lead to second chances. Viktor lived 2 lives in one city, and for 90 days I was the one he used to fill the gaps in his conscience. I am the collateral damage of a man who wanted to have it all. He got his life back. I am still searching for the one I had before he sent that first message. In London, the rain washes the streets clean every night, but it can never wash away the taste of a stolen time that was never mine to keep. And that is the end of Lana's entry. A story of the high price of a second chance and the cruelty of a man who lived a double life. It leaves a cold feeling, doesn't it? Knowing that the person who claims to be lost without you is actually perfectly found in someone else's arms. But now, I want to turn this over to you, my confidential listeners. Was Lana wrong to go to the hospital, or did she need to see the wife to finally wake up? And if you were Elena, would you want to know the truth about that Sunday? Leave a comment below. Until next time, stay safe and keep your secrets close. Good night.